All right, so the start reading here, it's working fine cosmetically speaking, but we need to structure it so that we are able to pick up the date when this was clicked, and then when we update this whole book, that date is going to be saved into our database, right? Here as one of these fields. All right, well, the first thing we need to do obviously is to go back to our book object, say book like this, and we need to add a few other, at least a couple of fields. So right about there, I can say final. Now, I could say something like this, string, and then say started reading, right? As such. That would work, but not really, because we would have to do more work to get that information back. Because remember, when we click at the bottom, when we want to save the time stamp, the time in which this was clicked, Firebase has its own type, which is called timestamp. So we're going to use that. We're going to say time stamp. There it is. Hit enter. And if you hover over, it's going to say implements comparable timestamp, blah, blah, blah. Timestamp represents a point in time independent of any time zone or calendar, represented as a seconds and fractions of seconds at nanoseconds resolution in UTC and so forth, right? So this is independent of the where you live, where are you developing from, and so forth. This is the, I would say, the purest timestamp there is. So it captured that moment when this is created. We can see this comes from the package, the Cloud Firestore platform package, which is really good because now we know we're safe. The same thing, I'm going to say final because we need another one called the finished reading, right? So might as well add it right now. Finished reading. We're going to be using that later. I'm going to have some issues here. That means we need to do some add those fields. Just click like that. Notice at this point, it doesn't really matter the order in which you add these fields. Firebase knows exactly how to change and how to arrange them, so it's all good. This looks like we need to add those two fields as well, so I'm going to add them. In this case, I'm going to just copy this a couple of times, and the first one is going to be say started underscore reading underscore at. Now it could be anything, but I like this format anyway. And the second one, just copy this, it's going to be finished reading like that, and this is started. Go back to get that started reading. I'm just going to copy there. Right, so we're having this issue here that is not defined because these were added outside of this scope. So I'm going to copy all of these guys. You can put anywhere, really. I'm going to put inside. As long as it's inside of curly braces, which signifies that we have named parameters. And let's do the same thing, of course, when we call the toMap method. Started. Let me copy this so that we don't make a mistake. This is going to be started. All right, so we have added those two fields and everything should be set up. Now, you may ask, okay, why is it that I'm adding this underscore when I'm creating the fields in our database? Well, the reason why is because it is customary whenever your field names have two words or more, you want to separate those words with underscore, right? As you see, all of them like this. So this is just a convention used in Firebase. So you should follow that. All right, now let's go back. Let's get rid of our book for now at least, and back to our book details dialog. Now we're going to go back here to update, and we're going to see if we can update this book. Meaning at this point, let me just restart this thing or hot reload so we are able to log ourselves in. So the idea is we have this information, we're going to try to get this start reading, at least pass that information onto the database as a field, okay, by updating this book. All right, so inside of our update press function there. So for now, we're just going to go straight and say something like this. Firebase, Firestore. I'm going to get the collection. The collection is going to be books, right? And we're going to go ahead and update. Actually, to update, we need to pass, of course, the document we're updating. So doc, in this case, how do we get a document ID? Well, we go through book again, dot. Let's see, do we have, I'm going to say widget dot book. In this case, I'm going to go through widget, which essentially is the same thing as this, right? Saying this class here. So I can say widget, right? This widget tree where we are inside of this class. I'm going to say widget, get the book. That's what we're saying, really. And let's see, widget.book, I want to go ahead and say ID, the book ID. So to get that ID, so I'm able to update. Then invoke the update method. So I'm going to pass the book and pass information inside of the constructor. First of all, let's start with user ID, just to continue the thing here. I'm going to say user. Now, I don't have the user, so what we can do, I'm going to say Firebase, again, auth, Firebase auth, dot instance, dot current user, dot ID, UI ID that is. Let's finalize semicolon there. Okay. All right, so we got the user ID. We'll change that later, but the same thing. I'm going to pass the title. For the title, I'm going to use the controller. So I'm going to say title controller.text. So extracting everything from from the object. Okay, in this case, we can get from the object, or we can just get it from our text field. But you want to use the actual controllers, because remember, the idea is that we are gonna get what is inside of our text fields to update, not necessarily what's inside of the object, because the object could change, meaning if I change this, something like that, and I've passed the object information field here for this field, right, then it's not going to update, right, because it's not going to go ahead and get this information from our text field. So that's why we're passing the actual text field as opposed to the object. All right, so author, I'm going to pass the author.text, and then photo URL, author, let's see, that's photo, not author, so photo, text, and then I'm going to say start reading. Okay, this is where we are now going to do the following. I'm going to say if is reading clicked is true, then I'm going to say time stamp and get the now method. So what we're saying here, we want to, the moment this is clicked, start reading, that instance, we're going to capture that time stamp, and pass it on into the started reading field. Else, I'm going to just say widget.book, say started reading timestamp. So essentially, again, I'm saying if they click this start reading, then we're going to snapshot, then we're going to get that timestamp of that instance. Otherwise, we're just going to get whatever we have from our object, the widget object. In this case, assuming that this book has already been clicked or been added to the reading list by saying starting reading. If not, just going to be null. Makes sense. And there we go. I'm going to pass finished timestamp. And for now, for finished timestamp, we're just going to add the timestamp now. We're going to change that, of course, later, but I'm just going to add that now, the current time, which is not true. Let's continue. I'm going to say notes. I'm going to say notes.text, get that information if there is such thing, and we're done. Of course, we need to make sure that we invoke the .toMap to make this a valid instance that can be saved into our database. Okay, let's see. Moment of truth. In fact, I can just not pass anything there, that field, because it's optional. That way we don't have confusion, but we could have left it there as well. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, let's click on this first one. Okay, let's see. Start. Okay, started reading. Very good. It's not until I update that I will get something, but since we're here, let's say something gibberish there and click update. So update was clicked, nothing really is showing there, but let's see if that's true. If we go back to our books here, let's see, what book was it? iOS development. I think this is this is the one, because I can see there's a gibberish. Finish reading is null. Description is also null. You can see started reading. Now we have some information. In fact, if you click there, you see the timestamp. The type here is timestamp. It's got date and the time added to this timestamp. So we now know that this is working. Okay, very well. So I get out of here, go back. Of course, nothing is showing there, but that's okay. In the next video, we're going to figure out how to then, when we come back, to see the timestamp when this was added. Just like it happens here, right? It always shows us when this was started on.